Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, it is brought to you by our friends right here where we are today, the Bally's FanDuel Sportsbook. We are live on a Friday. And if you were at the Bally's FanDuel Sportsbook last night and bet the Eagles, you would have covered. They were a winner last night. They only lost by 6, but Adam Caplan, it felt like that game was not very close for much of the night, even though the 6-point differential would suggest at the end that it was a close game. Did you feel ever that the Eagles were in that game last night?
All right, Mike, I'm going to tell you a little secret. So Jeff Mosher and I were talking during the game. I said, Jeff, let's get ready. We're going to be doing our podcast very, very soon. This is a blowout. It's 28-7. I thought the game was over. I'll admit it. I thought the game was over, and then I thought the Buccaneers might got a little bit conservative in the second half. They went to the run too much, not trying to get those explosive plays. And Bruce Arians just said about an hour ago, he was asked that in his press conference, that the Eagles were playing such soft coverage to not give up the deep ball that they felt they had to take everything underneath, and that's fine. But typically when teams get big leads, it's hard to sustain that, and I thought they lost a little bit of energy. I give the Eagles credit for fighting back, but I still want to know what in the world were the Eagles scoring 2 points for? Why were they going for a 2-point conversion? For the life of me, for those of us who picked against the Eagles, not only picked against them, the Bucs to cover the spread, not that I bet, but I was laughing. I'm like, you cannot be serious with that 2-point conversion.
Well, there's so much to unpack in this game here. Let's start with this. First off today, the big news, obviously, last night in the pregame, we heard Jay Glazer say teams are calling about Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert and that they could be traded by the end of the week. That happened today. Zach Ertz finally traded. Why now after a Thursday night game last night?
That was bizarre, Mike. It really was, because as we would find out today, the deal was basically done earlier this week. And here's what happened. The Cardinals lost their starting tight end, Max Williams, for the season due to a severe knee injury. Not that they use the tight ends very much, but they had to do something. And a veteran, proven pass catcher, Zach Ertz, we know he's not a great blocker. Max Williams is known for his blocking and catching a touchdown every once in a while, but he's a blocker. They really were down at tight end. They needed to do something. And they gave up a guy they weren't using in Tay Gowan. It was a 6th-round pick. And they gave up a 5th-rounder. So for the Cardinals, it was sort of a no-brainer. They're going for a Super Bowl. It's almost similar, Mike, in the way that the Eagles made the trade for J.J. in 2017, where it was around the trade deadline. Remember, the trade deadline is about 2.5 weeks away. The Eagles went for it. They needed depth at running back. Well, the Cardinals here needed depth, and actually a guy's going to play a lot in Zach Ertz once he learns the offense. They could use him, no question about it, and they're going for it. This is a go-for-it trade, which I don't know if they would have done this had they not lost Max Williams, but they felt they had to do something to tight end, and that's what they did.
So now, obviously, Goddard didn't play last night. He was on the COVID reserve list, but the anticipation that he'll be back and ready to go, he's the guy now. So what does this mean for him?
Yeah.
And what does this mean really for the offense? Like I had asked, Jeff during the week about this, which was, do you think having the 2 tight ends has actually been a problem in game calling and game planning, trying to figure out how to get both those guys in and touches and targets and getting them on the field? Now he only has 1 tight end to have to worry about. So what does this mean for the offense and Dallas Goedert?
Yeah, and just to be clear, Goddard was on the injury report on Monday with an illness, which means he's not feeling well. And the next day, he won the COVID list because he tested positive. So let's hope by the time they play the Raiders, and let's hope by the end of next week he's practiced. So it's not a lock that he's playing, but let's hope he's feeling well or better, and then is able to get 2 negative tests. So anyway, the big thing here was, and one of the reasons, there were many reasons why the Eagles were very open to trading him in the spring, and we all knew where this was going to be headed. He wasn't going to be back in 22. The Eagles tried to move him. They could not get what they wanted in the spring, so they held on to him. Howie Roseman made it very clear, and I do agree with him. He talked about this today. When you have Zach Ertz back, you might as well embrace it because he's a leader. He sets a good example not only for the tight end room, but for the whole team. Now you take him away, and you're right. It's Dallas Goedert's ball now. This is the way we're told. The coaches, at least they planned this. Now they had not done it. They really wanted Goddard to be the guy at tight end, and based on pass targets and playing time, it had not happened. That's been of the many puzzling issues, Mike, with this offense. That's in my top 3. The lack of usage for Goddard. I understand Ertz was on the team, but he still could have been the focal point. You still could make him the focal point of the passing game. They had never even come close to doing it. Though he's looked fine, some of it's because the quarterback struggled with accuracy. Some they haven't dialed him up. So going forward, his pass targets are going to go up for sure. His playing time will go up, no doubt about it. And they've got a bunch of young tight ends. And Howie Roseman dropped the nugget about Tyree Jackson. Apparently he's going to be back relatively soon from his back fracture.
Obviously, Goddard, 14.4 yards a catch. He's been one of the bigger play tight ends in the league. Getting him more targets could help this offense a lot. They need it. Let's start with the play calling last night. And your thoughts on it continue to be issues. I mean, they're getting massacred nationally for the game plan and the way they're calling plays. I mean, Joyner last night called it a high school offense. Steve Smith on the NFL Network said this offense is garbage. Ryan Clark blasted them today. So they're getting ripped from every angle for the basically a malpractice game plan last night.
I mean, Mike, we asked on our pregame show, we asked Brian Baldinger this. We talked to Yvonne about it too. Jason sort of echoed Baldy's statements about, I asked Baldinger, I said, hey, listen, we know that they run a shotgun offense. They're in shotgun more than any NFL team. But can't you do both, shotgun and under center? He said, absolutely. They're not sure. Jalen Hurts played almost his entire career, not all of it, but most of it under in shotgun in college. But it doesn't mean you can't in the pros play him under center some. So that's something they got to look at here. They've got to get a run game here. This is, as much as I love passing, this is absurd. And then all of a sudden they're running the ball when they're down by a lot. It was really odd that the play call, the other part of it, we've used this line on Inside the Birds, Mike, of disjointed. It was so disjointed last night. And you just mentioned with Goddard, and I know he wasn't there, and Ertz took over for it, the lack of an intermediate passing game. It's either a shot play or a short area screen, a slot screen. Where are the in-breakers? Where's the intermediate pass game? And that's what Goddard will do when he's cleared. That's where he excels in the middle and running after the catch. Their offense is really painful to watch, and I agree with those guys.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Last night was really tough, and part of it is because Jalen Hurts had a tough night too. There were guys open. He did not make very good throws. Now, some throws, he did make some plays, and he wasn't absolutely horrible, but they don't help him out too much. But he didn't help himself out where there were a few throws to make, and he didn't make them.
I would say more than probably a few from the early word we're getting on what the tape looked like. Here's what he does. Our friend Greg Cosell, who's he comes on with us on Sundays for a pregame show. Greg, when I asked him, I said, what do you see with Hurts? He goes, the biggest issue he has is he drops his eyes, which means he doesn't maintain his downfield focus. But the other things we've heard is he breaks the pocket too much. Sometimes he anticipates pressure and moves when he should move. I know it's not always pretty when he throws because he's got some real issues with his lower body mechanics, getting a good base, driving the football off his back foot, but he backpedals too much. He's a work in progress. They cannot consider benching him. They can't do that. Let him play. He really cares. At some point, I know the caring and the leadership doesn't matter when you're not playing well. I get all that. But he's got to continue to play, and they've got to get this evaluation. And look, the good thing is their schedule, not that it's going to be easy going forward. It's not the bear that it had been.
Yeah, he's been productive. The numbers have been there. I mean, I think he's one of only 5 quarterbacks ever to have 3,000 yards and 20 total touchdowns in a career in his first 10 games. I mean, so production is there. He has been productive. But production doesn't lead to consistency and victory. So I think we have to look at those numbers and take them for what they are. Is he consistent enough to win in this league? And I don't know that this offense is going to help you get that answer.
Both are fair. They're not independent of each other. The stats, it's tape. NFL people will tell you tape study is number one. Numbers are way down the list. They're like, it's what does he look like from coaching tape, the all 22. Can you match the numbers up to the tape? But the fact of the matter is it's leadership, it's toughness, which he's got. Do you guys want to play hard for him? Yes. What do the numbers look like? Okay, missing two. This matches up to the tape. If you graded all of his throws, you would see a bunch that were not good and inaccurate. Last night, I mean, here's another thing. You've seen the last 2 weeks, the lack of total completions. That's a real problem, Mike. We're just, the best game. I mean, the Chiefs game, he played well, relatively well. I think we would all probably agree with that. The defense was terrible in that game. That's the other problem that we're having here, Mike. Other than the Atlanta game, show me a game where all three phases were good in the same game. I don't know if you've had all three in it.
Adam, in the Atlanta game, I left highly impressed with the game plan.
There you go.
I thought he did a great job, accentuated the positives, got the ball to the playmakers, got him in spots. I'm not an irrational guy, Adam. You know me. I'm pretty laid back. I gave Sirianni an F- last night. An F-.
A minus.
F-. That game plan last night. That game plan last night in that game was egregiously bad. And his answers after the game, and today, I mean, Jeff Mosher asked him about the identity of the offense, and he said, well, 6 games in, nobody really knows nobody knows their identity. I mean, what do you want to be, dude? Like, his answers, and he's going down the Andy Reid road. I got to do a better job. I mean, he's going down. I'm telling you, I don't want to not like this guy. I want to give him a chance. Maybe as a head coach, he's all right, but as a play caller, he's been horrible.
Yeah, the players, they clearly played hard for him. That's not an issue. And the fact that they hung in there, they came back. Gannon made some adjustments in the second half, defensive coordinator. But, offensively, they're just a train wreck right now. And the other thing is,
Adam, I don't want to. But when Jordan Mailata, who has very little football experience, he's questioning as to why you didn't make adjustments earlier. You got a guy who's playing Australian rules football and says, man, I really wish we would have made some adjustments earlier. Yeah. Isn't that a problem?
You don't want to hear that. Right. You don't want to hear it. But what I was going to say, Mike, is that the game planning, I don't know how much it really helps the players, particularly the quarterback and Kenny Gainwell getting one touch. It's totally disjointed. Everything I'd heard from coaches who work with the Colts, the good stuff is that he's a leader, Sirianni. But the idea of offensive football, where did he learn from Frank Reich? And here's another thing, Mike, and I'm not going to back off this. Sirianni's decision to not bring a senior offensive assistant, someone who's called plays before, at this level, okay? He told Brian Johnson called plays at University of Florida. So what? He didn't do it here. Who does he have on a staff that's called plays at this level? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see it. You need someone to get in his ear.
Did Steichen call the plays in Los Angeles?
1 year, and he wasn't brought back by the Chargers. That's not a good sign.
Great. Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds podcast goes a lot deeper. Let's go to something else. The wide receivers. You had a Rieger drew 2 penalties last night. I thought Watkins made an unbelievable catch. Watkins continues to seem to be the one guy on this team who can get open. And so what do you make of the wide receiver struggles?
Yeah, he's right now, if you look at Quez Watkins, he's essentially a starter. He's come a long way here. It's really a 3-receiver offense between Rager and Watkins and obviously Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith had a rough game last night. He needs to beat physical coverage. This is an ongoing challenge for him. He needs to be more of a factor. He needs to make himself a pass target. I know he needs to get stronger physically. And they do need that possession pass target like Goddard back in the lineup. But overall, the receivers have certainly underwhelmed this season. Devontae Smith has done relatively well. He'll get better. They need it. The other thing is they're not asking him to catch the ball deep as we thought they would. He did it at Alabama. We don't quite understand why he's not doing it here. Watkins has been a good story. We lament the lack of development from this roster. He's been a very good story, Quez Watkins. One that, if you would have told me that coming into training camp, I don't know if I would have believed it. He did not have a good spring, but he had a good training camp. He started working his way up the depth chart.
Adam, obviously, there's so many issues with this team, but let's go to defense. They were overmatched in the first half. Now, I know the answer in my mind to the question, but I will ask you to get your thoughts. Did John Gannon make adjustments, or did Tampa Bay take the foot off the gas in the second?
They put a little bit – well, you're right. We said it earlier. They did take the foot off the gas pedal, which it's hard when you're up by 21. But my understanding was that part of it's from what Bruce Arians said, but I heard from a source who watched the tape. They took away completely the deep ball. They were not giving up anything. They had to get everything short to intermediate. And crossers with Antonio Brown, who had a great game, by the way. And then they dialed up a little bit more pressure in the second half. They loaded up the box a little bit. They played tighter zones. They made it a little bit harder, and that helped them come in the game, keep in the game. And that's the thing with Jonathan Gannon. As one personal source said, he coaches a little bit scared. Like he's like, okay, we're playing Tom Brady. Let's just back off and play soft the whole game. That's not, or most of it. That's not going to work. They play. Look, he did a great job last week. I understand it. You're only worried about DJ Moore. You're worried about more pass targets here, but he's got to be more aggressive. This is not what I was expecting from this guy. This is not what we were told by people who work with him before. We've seen some of the things we were told, but not even half of it what we were told. Although last week we started to see some of that stuff. I don't know. I don't understand the variance from week to week with this guy as a play caller.
Yeah, and the run defense struggling again, too. That's another problem is, hey, look, obviously he doesn't have the horses to do what you want to do against a team like Tampa, like Kansas City. So is it fair to judge them in those games? Like, is it fair to say John Gannon's overmatched when he's trying to game plan for Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Dallas? Why in the games against Carolina, Atlanta, and San Francisco does he look competent? You know what I mean?
I can't answer that. That's what I was saying. I don't know why. I think he does coach by opponent. I understand that. But you run a specific scheme. You have to know what's going to work, it's not work. Just trying to take away the default does not work. This is not 1980s football. You have to understand what works. You got to get more physical. They bounce back and forth with a little bit of tighter coverage up front to not let the receivers run by them. And then they backed off. See, that was the other problem. I think he's struggling a little bit at times, Gannon, because he's also a first-time play caller. And I think this is where he needs also a senior assistant help to help him kind of guide and get ideas. So he look, they're a total work in progress. I've pretty much brutalized both of these guys this season, but I also understand this is their first time doing it. Growing pains of new play callers, and folks, you're just going to have to live with it. That's all I have to tell you about that situation.
All right, Adam Caplan, as we kind of look back at the game last night, and obviously, Tampa Bay is in a different spot than Philadelphia is right now. And you look at where Philadelphia is now with this 10-day break. Are they where they thought they would be? Are they ahead of where they thought they would be? Are they behind where they thought they would be? I
would tell you my talks with team sources have been more like, okay, coming into the season, we kind of know what we are. We're an upstart. We're starting anew. They don't want to call it a total rebuild. I think if they're being honest with you, my information would say they think it's a semi-rebuild, but they have some young players they think could do some good things and they could be competitive. There's been signs of very good competitiveness. There's been signs that these coaches are sort of overwhelmed, particularly the play callers, the head coach on offense and the defensive coordinator. Sometimes they're overwhelmed because they're trying to figure it out as they go along. That's where we need to be patient, Mike. There are going to be growing pains where you go. And I understand the criticism nationally and locally. I'm part of the national group and part of the local group. It's just I have to go with what I see and what I'm told. And I'm looking forward to getting more information about what this tape looked like. But they'll have a chance to beat a Raider team that's not great. It's more competitive than most people thought. But the schedule's going to get better. They're still going to get 7 to 8 wins here. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Oh, I agree. I think, look, and I said before, they've scored 30 points twice in a game already this year. Either, they didn't do that at all last year. So the offense has the ability to score. I think Sirianni just has to be a much better, more focused play caller. And he has
and that's why he should have had help, Mike. Should have had help.
Because he has some tools to put points on the board. And as we said, John Gannon's defense has been competitive against teams that are more on their level. These teams that are above them, they're going to have some trouble with. But they can be competitive against the Raiders and the Lions and the Giants and the Jets and the Saints. So there's a lot of those coming up. Adam Caplan, don't forget InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast. And those guys will have plenty more leading you into Eagles and Raiders. And they'll be back for Football at 4 right here on the Sports Bash. Adam, have a great weekend, man.
You too. Thanks.
All right, Adam Caplan here, Football at 4 on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Football at 4, it is brought to you by the Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash.